Games, podcast where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with one of my co-hosts.
Tony, aka Southern Playalistic Hatchback Music.
I respect it. Outcast, you can do no
30
wrong with.
years.
Yes, sir. That anniversary is mind blowing, bro. Like 30 years is crazy. I
Man.
remember I remember when hip hop was not 30 years old yet. It's just crazy. And we also back with my man James, back again, man. Glad to see you feeling better and everything.
Yeah, like my man Cam Newton said, I'm back.
Yes, sir. This is gonna
Just
go
just
much
don't
better.
don't fuck up after that. I was about to say don't fuck up after that.
It's gonna go a lot better than that shit. But yeah,
Said that
nah,
shit
we're back,
immediately
man.
through two picks the next game.
Facts. Nah, our website color is too close to the fucking Panthers colors. We can't have that, right? We can't have that. But nah, we're back again, man. Back for episode 58, I think. I'm pretty
58,
sure.
Trent Cole.
Yes, sir. Hey, I love it. I love it. I love how there's always a sports reference. But yeah, man, we continuing our console retrospective series. We're this time going to do the episode we were going to do last time, but we had to hold it off on my man James, which is the N64 episode. We are going to deep dive into Nintendo's third main console. Um, you already know how this goes at this point, but just in case anybody's not hip, man, Tony always let you break down the criteria, so you can kind of run through that real quick.
Yep. Five criteria for us, each grading out of 10. Console appearance, controllers, games, graphics, and impact. We'll come up with the total score at the end. I don't know if you want to run through yours on the last ones, but Genesis I had 39, Super Nintendo 47, and the PS1 was 36.
Yeah, hurts to
The
hear that
controller,
PS.
man. It's the controller, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had so I did do PS1, I had 45, Super Nintendo 46, and Genesis 42. And James, I know you missed a couple of them, but do you have your scores by chance?
Um, I think I just got the Genesis one, which was like 41.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, I think yours is pretty close to mine. So we're gonna have to get you to like give your updated scores because, like I said, I want to take all the scores at the end. Like when we do a future episode, we'll get like a James centric corner of the episode where you can break down. I think you missed Super Nintendo and PS1, so yeah, we'll get those rankings from you. But because I want to give you some time to kind of think about it, because right now we're here to talk about the Nintendo 64, a very special console. I think all of us have very fond memories of the N64. Um, I guess I'll kick it off. I want to start off with like some memories about getting it because I know like it seems like that was right around like I think we were all around like 9 or 10 years old, and when we started to kind of care about our what we were getting, and like it was kind of a big deal getting the N64 along with the PlayStation. But I remember that was a Christmas game for me, and I got two games, Majora's Mask and Donkey Kong 64, and both games needed the expansion pack. And guess who didn't have the expansion pack on Christmas Day when everything's fucking closed? That would be me. So it was a shitty time, but then my cousin actually loaned me Smash, like Super Smash Bros. The original one. And this is like one of the few games, just like the PlayStation, I had a memory playing with my dad. Like he kind of sat down and played with me. And then the next day I got my expansion pack. And we'll talk about what happened next when we get to games. But very special console. Do you have any core memories tied to the N64?
James, I'll let you go.
Yeah, for me, this is probably, I know my mom bought me the system when she dropped me off into my grandma's house. I remember the first two games was Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and for some reason, that hard ass Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat game.
Mythologies.
Yeah, I don't know why she bought me this game, but that game was like the hardest game I think I've ever played in my life. Um, and then I also remember Super Smash Bros. I remember my dad telling me, in order for me to get this game, I had to score 2 touchdowns in my football game. I
Mhm.
scored 5 because I was
Real.
gonna get that fucking game. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
that she was not about to give me that game. I think my birthday was like a week early. He said, if you score 2 touchdowns, I'll give it to you early. I was like, okay, don't even worry about it.
It was over.
So I got it.
Love it.
Shit. I might be the first the early adopter because I got my shit 96 on Christmas
Hey,
96. That shit dropped in September. Um Yes, I got my shit for Christmas the first game. And this is like the launch titles for it are not necessarily great with the exception of Mario
Yeah,
Kart 64.
right.
So yeah, I got Mario Kart 64 and then Madden Football 64. Not to be confused with Madden 98 or 97 or 96. No, this was Madden Football 64 where they didn't even have like the full NFL licensing deal in it. So the Patriots were like Foxborough and what the
Ooh.
New England Patriots. It was mad cheap. Like it's generic as
Jesus.
fuck. And I loved it because it was a
Of course.
football game. But yeah, when I look back at, I mean, it was generic. There was no logos. It was just generic as all fuck.
That was
Um,
a dark time.
yeah. So those were my first two games, and then we'll get to like the stuff that came after. But yeah, that was my first experience with the shit.
Man, it was a really special time. I don't think people really understand. And again, it's so tough to have these convos before we get to the rankings, but like the cultural moment that the N64 was. So instead of starting off talking about it, let's kind of get into it. First off, we gotta rank the console. And remember, this is like the aesthetics, the form factor, the convenience. What are we ranking the N64? Because I'll start.
Ah,
I'll give it a seven. I'm gonna give it a seven, which I think is a little high. I
that's
think
what I was gonna say.
like I like the novelty of it. Like I think it's kind of cool looking, but it's not good. Like this joint does not fit anywhere, and it's not like necessarily like it's not cool. It's not good. It's just not that great of a design. It's really weird. It's like a fucking toy. So seven.
Yeah, I'll say six. Like I said, it's nothing to rave home about. It's a system. It was there. But like there was no unique design to it to be like, okay, like this makes it or this makes it pop. It was just a system. So I'll give it a six.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, because I'm sitting there staring at. Like it's right in front of me. I'm fucking staring at it.
I did this.
Um,
I did this last time. I get it.
I gotta go like a five. Like it's just slightly above the PS1 to me.
Man, yeah. I mean, I get
Actually, where
that.
did I rank the PS1? Let me be fair. Yeah, okay, yeah, it was a three. I ranked the PS1 a three. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just slightly above the PS5 because it's like I said, the PS5 was the gray box. I mean, the PS1 was just a gray box, and like the N64 is just a dark gray thing with rounded edges, um,
it's
and
not
a
wrong.
slot. It's not. I mean, it's got vents on the side of it, but it's like it's a cartridge based console, so it doesn't have a fan, so it doesn't really need vents. It's a very
Uh,
strange appearance, but it does look good sitting in the right spot. Like if you've got your game set up right, with that little N64 crystal on the front side, it looks good. But
that's
yeah, I
true.
mean, like thinking back to even when I was a kid, like I wasn't impressed with how it looked. Because it just didn't feel like a game console.
It looked like a toy, like straight
Yeah.
up and down. Like, and that's what made me enjoy it now and why I have nostalgia for it. Like specifically nostalgia for how it looks, but why I can't rank it high because it's like a toy. Like the coolest thing about it was that it came in a million colors, like, and that was pretty dope. But the
And that shit came after
translucent
the
one,
fact.
yeah, right, right.
Look, the translucent era in the 90s was elite. We need to go back to that.
Fire. I don't care, man. Like that shit's let's have a retro 90s era where we doing all translucent shit, please.
Yeah.
Please. Like think about a translucent dual sense controller. That shit would be so come
Bruh.
on. Crazy. But speaking of controllers, we are now ranking the N64 controller, which is another interesting conversation. I I'll let one of y'all start because I started last time.
Oh, I got for this one. I'm giving that a seven.
Hey, okay.
It's not a bad controller. Like we look at the design now and we go, why were we switching between the left and the middle so much? But when you really think about it, I mean, it made sense for the time because they had certain games where you weren't controlling with the D-pad at all anyway. So
Well, I was gonna say,
they
not
were
to
giving you an
interrupt you, but
option.
like I never switched to like I only held the middle joint. Like I don't feel like I ever used the D-pad.
Yeah, like you just didn't because once we had analog sticks, it was like, what the fuck was the point? Like, unless you was playing like a fighting game, then you might, if you really used to that old school style, you might go back to it. But
True.
I looked at it like it gave you an option control wise. I can do one thing, and then you look at games like GoldenEye, where like the control scheme in GoldenEye is fucking terrible. Like, we could be honest about what that shit was. Iconic game, you know, a first person shooter. Like like it
Yeah.
pushed that shit forward, but that was not at all a good control scheme. And because the N64 controller was just not great for that. But the overall like feel of the controller, buttons, like the analog stick work well, like everything about it worked well. That Z button on the back, like you're talking about a controller that really started a lot of shit. So
Right.
it's a 7 mainly for its impact and how well it works, but aesthetically, like it's I mean it's ugly fucking controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 7 too. I'm gonna agree. It's an ugly controller.
Okay.
But what it was used for was good. You know, for certain games, it really took those games like out of the park. Like to me, it felt like they were trying to mix arcade system in a controller. You know, so like racing games on the 64 felt good because the joystick felt, nice in your hand and everything like that. I would have to agree. GoldenEye set up to do stuff was the stupidest shit I've ever witnessed in my life. I don't know who thought that that was a good idea. That's
Yep.
why if you wasn't good at that game, you just wasn't good. Um, but like I said, the Z button in the back for like shooting games was just like very seamless. Like it felt like, like you playing House of Dead or something. Like it just felt seamless, like playing those games. But it looked ugly as fuck. It was ugly. That shit
Ugly fucking
looked like
controller.
a fork. It was not. It was not a cool looking controller at all. Like
It
at
still looks
all.
like a prototype. That's the thing that fucks me up. It looks like a prototype.
Yeah, like it looked like somebody was
Yeah.
like, "This is a good idea," and they didn't have enough time to like really get out of design, and they just said, "Fuck it, let's just go what we first came out with," and they just was like, "That's it." But again, but for the games, it was okay. Like for the games, it did what it was supposed to do. Like it felt good. Like I said, like I know we talked about like the Genesis controller, like all the buttons still had uses for certain games. That the Genesis
Yeah.
controller was just buttons for no reason.
In fact.
But again, it just looked ugly as shit. That's
Yeah. Yeah. I literally don't know who was more accurate, a fork or a prototype. Like, but I've never thought of either of those, and they're both facts. Like, that's crazy. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I actually had a 7 there too. Just keeping it consistent with the console ranking that I had, like same reasoning. Like this looks like a toy. This looks like something that a kid wants to throw. I see it and I want to kind of throw it just to see what happens, you know? So it's a toy, but it's like novelty and it's like, fun looking. And I actually do like the way it feels when you're holding like the middle and the side like that. There's like a weird
Yeah, that feels
form
great.
factor. Yeah, like something about the way you're holding it like this, like the way it's like off centered, it just kind of works. That you don't get that much in other controllers. Like fun fact, I never thought about this either, but the nunchuck from the Wii was designed specifically around the N64 joystick, and that makes perfect sense. Like it was the same joystick.
It
Like
looks like
he
they just literally just pulled that piece off and
ripped it off and
painted it
put it
white
in
and
your
sold it.
hand. And that's kind of funny. Like I appreciate that, which tells you something about how influential that joystick was. Because that wasn't like what PlayStation did, where they set the form factor standard. That was a joystick. Like, you had a console that was using
They
like you
set the
said,
function standard.
right. It felt arcadey in the way it felt, and that's saying something. So, shout out to the controller.
You know
Um,
what's weird is that like when I think about it, is the way they use the C buttons because they called the C buttons because it was camera buttons.
mhm.
That was really the first second stick.
It was 100%. That's where we got to on GameCube. Same like
Yeah,
function entirely.
but I hated it as a button
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it didn't make like I have to push it because there's no like real granular control of that. I gotta
Right.
tap the button a particular way. The idea
Often,
was there. I get it, but you know,
yeah. I mean, it felt like they was trying to put a second D-pad over there almost instead of a stick,
yeah.
but it just like didn't quite work. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, But
Nah,
like,
like if you used it for like regular shit like Ocarina of Time, it was fine.
perfect, yeah. Speaking of Ocarina of Time, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a crazy. Nah, I can't even say that. But this Ocarina of
Say
Time was one of the first games that had lock on, right? Like the Z targeting was
yeah, Z
like
targeting that is no, that
Yeah.
is the first.
okay, because I'm thinking like maybe some like space shooter back in the day or some shit
Mm-mm.
like or a
Nope.
Doom game. Yeah, because I've always thought like yeah, y'all straight up started this. If they didn't literally invent it, if you can pull some random game from '92 that did it, whatever, they set the standard. Like they
Yeah,
popularized
no,
it.
like third person games in general owe everything to Ocarina of Time just for the
Facts,
concept of lock on.
100%. You know what I mean? And again, perfect segue. I'm loving these segues because we are now time to talk about games. This is one of the easy combos, I feel like. Um, but you know what? This is actually probably going to be a 9 out of 10 for me personally. I think the N64 had utter classics, like some of the best games you'll ever play, but it didn't have a ton of them. It felt like, maybe it's just me, but I always felt like the N64 didn't have a whole lot of games. Like it was like sparse here and there type shit. So and then some of them were kind of like, they got some shovelware over there and it made it stand out just a little bit more than on the PlayStation where they just had tons and tons of shit coming out. So that was my perspective. So I would give it a 9 out of 10. I know we'll delve into this conversation like into the individual games. So I'm gonna let y'all just kind of get y'all rankings out before I start going off.
I'm gonna give it a 10. Uh, it's nothing to really talk about. It's a 10. Some of these games are still like the highest like sold games in general. Like, these some of these games started franchises for some people, like I know we're gonna get into it later, but like Banjo Kazooie, you know what I'm saying? Things like that, like started people to, have their own stuff, so for me it's a 10. I mean, like I said, like Ocarina of Time is still one of the greatest Legend of Zelda games like ever. Even though I didn't beat it till I was like 13, even though I had it when I was a kid, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was stuck at the fucking first level as a kid. I didn't know what
This
the hell.
goddamn Sculptureless.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck
Man,
to do.
jumping off the little thing at the top, getting through the bottom
Right.
area. Yeah, that's just
Yeah,
crazy.
I was just like, nobody is telling me how I'm supposed to beat this game, but it's okay.
Yeah, nah, I struggle with this one because I try to do the game grade based on the entire catalog.
Right, right.
And if I
Yeah.
had to do that based on the entire catalog, it would probably be a 7 because there's a lot of like bullshit on the 64. But the classics are so fucking good. I gotta give it a 10. Like they're that good that it just bumps that fucking grade up. Because
They
there
are.
there is a lot of shovelware bullshit on the 64. But even the low tier classics like Pokemon Puzzle League, like Pokemon Snap was a fucking classic.
A classic.
Like
Man.
that's the type of shit that they was throwing out, and it was fucking incredible. And then you look
Respect.
at the fact, like you got Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, which is literally responsible for the fact that I have a job in the gaming industry. Cause like that was the moment I knew what the fuck I was about to be on. Motherfucker, my pronoun is gamer because of that game. Like that is the one to me. You got Donkey Kong 64, Jet Force Gemini, like Perfect Dark. Like
Man,
there, man, there's just
it's
classics
endless.
just
It's
oh,
endless.
it bumps the grade. Like it's got to be a 10 just on the strength that the classics were so fucking good that the shovelware didn't matter. And I'm going to say this here. I have said it on Twitter. I am a Quest 64 truther. I'm not saying it's a classic, but it's actually a pretty good game. It ain't great, but it's actually a pretty good game.
I've heard this
So
take
I would put
before.
that. I still have it. It's in my drawer. I still have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I feel like
Crazy.
me and Quest 64 official on Twitter are like the only two people on Twitter that are going up for this game, and that's fine. I can live with that, but I rock with it. So yeah,
Hey,
that's a 10.
okay. I respect that for sure. Like I feel like I can't give a console a 10 in games, and I will if I'm going off of how fire the best games are. So I had to knock a point off just because I do somewhat. There's a little part of me that associates the N64 with having those like those shovelware games, those like mid to bad games, you know what I mean? But like I said, the classics, the great games bring it all the way back up. So I can absolutely respect it. Here's another interesting conversation. Let's talk about graphics because I feel like that's a lot to talk about. I'm not gonna start this one off.
I'll start this one off.
Okay.
I'll give it an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8. In the moment, graphically, that console was up there, and I think the same way people you look back on the PS1 and you see like blocky cloud and you don't like remember, but like nah, there was a point where we was looking at shit like that and going, oh my God, this is incredible. I mean, you think about like Ocarina of Time being basically an open world game for that time period. And what like the second you stepped out of Kokiri Forest and everything was in front of you. Everything. Death Mountain, you could see Death Mountain. Like
Yeah.
you could see Lon Lon Ranch. You could see where you were supposed to go to get to Lake Hylia. Like that shit was incredible at the time. Link looked amazing. Was fucking creepy. You know, like that those games look great. Super Mario 64 was incredible. The water looked good. You know, it
Nice.
that console, I mean, for running on a fucking cartridge was pretty fucking good. So that's an 8 for me.
Well, yeah, actually, I had an 8 written down as well. So I would jump in and just agree with you pretty much. Like same vibes as I gave the PS1. I gave the PS1 a 7, which might be divisive, but I feel like the N64 felt so. It felt like the first step into that 3D shit. So I kind of give it a little bit more leniency on some of that, especially since it's using cartridges. I think what they pulled off with an older format is crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 on graphics for sure. And I agree with you. Like I think it's not like good looking necessarily. Like you can see how polygonal and like I mean, I'm not trying to disrespect those artists back then. It was great for its time, but
Yeah.
it didn't age great necessarily, but it has a charm still to this day. So yeah, rocking with that.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 too. Like I said, I mean, at that time frame, those graphics looked, great. I'm just remember playing Mario 3D and being able to jump into a painting and take you to a different
Right.
world,
Yeah.
and him not just, being, 2D, like him actually being able to move around and jump and do all those different things to me was just like, oh man, like what the hell? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like me playing like my favorite wrestling game of all time, like No Mercy. And like
Mhm.
even though it's not like today, but at least the characters still did look similar to each other. Like even though the blockhead, but the Rock still looked like the Rock,
Right.
and they were trying to do as much as they could. Like I said, if we go back at it now, we're kind of like, but like, or even just, little things like, Pokemon Stadium, like, the Pokemon had more life to them, things like that. So at that
Mhm.
time, like the system did as much as you can. And just like you said, like it really kind of used 3D like that. Like when they said like, oh, this game is Mario 64, it was like taking that game and switching it up and giving you something else, you know what I'm saying? And I respected it for that, but so that's what I'll give it an 8 for what it was. Like I said, like holding up now, of course, it's not that great, but it for what it was at that time frame, going from the systems that we went to getting there, and just pushing past those limits eventually, like it did what's supposed to do.
Feel that 100%. And I feel like the easiest way to transition to the next category is to piggyback off the Super Mario 64 thing because there's no game that exemplifies the impact of the N64 than Mario 64 in my eyes. Like I remember when they had like I think it was McDonald's that had a promo with them, and they had like a little cardboard little like cutout of Mario, and I cut that joint out, and I used to run around the house bouncing it over stuff because I couldn't believe Mario was like 3D like this. And when the game dropped, you could have like in my mind, Super Mario 64 looked like the Mario movie looks like now. Like, you know what I mean? That's how we
Yeah.
saw that game. Like
Yeah.
it was compared to what we had, which was like Super Mario World. Go look at like the Super Nintendo and then look at Mario 64 and realize that's an graphical jump. Like that was a whole moment for us. So Impact is an easy 10 for me. Like the N64 was a cultural zeitgeist. You know what I mean? This joint had Mario 64, it had Ocarina of Time, it had Banjo-Kazooie. The clones of the impactful games were classics. The Banjo-Kazooie was a classic off the back of Mario 64 in its own way. Perfect Dark was a classic off the back of GoldenEye in its own way. Like so,
Superior game.
yeah. I mean, hey, people say that about Banjo-Kazooie too. I ain't gonna, but I'm gonna have to give that a 10 off the strip, man. Off Bucks for sure.
I mean, yeah, if we're doing impact, it's a 10. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, just from the games that started to the games that went now. Like you said, like Ocarina of Time is like I said, to me, it's one of the greatest games. Like I said, without that game, I don't know if I would be a gamer. You know, like that game started everything, you know, for me and, you know, just how I play games, how I do things like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, like that's what it is. Then, like you said, GoldenEye is just, I mean, it speaks for itself. Like you got people together and you was just like, hey, let's play. And I think also the 64 really started being able to play with multiple people that wasn't just two. So the 64 was like now you're able to play with 3 to 4 people, you know. So like I always say, like, you know, we do it now, Mario Party. We love it. But Mario Party made you lose friends. Like, because I was
Man.
telling you stars and I did not care.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So like I said, for
Look
me,
you in the eye while I'm doing it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So for
Only
me,
one
it
time.
started that have a party at your house thing. You know what I'm saying? Like as a kid, like, oh, I had a party at my house. What do we did? We played 64. You know, came over, cake, huggies, you know what I'm saying? Hot dogs,
Word.
hamburgers,
Right.
you know, chips, and we played 64, you know what I'm saying? Because all the other games, you know, were like 2 controllers. And even PS, you know, PlayStation, you had to buy the extra stuff to connect to it to make it play. And then also
Yeah.
the games were limited. But this was like, hey, more people can play than just two. Like this was like the party system to me. So I think that started on now until like now, you know, of course you're online and you're playing that and different things like that. So the impact that it had from that was like, hey, like get your friends around and start playing, which I think went into like online gaming and everything like that. So the impact is definitely a 10 for me.
Before I get into my grade, I gotta ask a real nigga question. A huggy color choice. What niggas is what?
Oh, blue.
Blue. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The only one that made me wrestle with blue is red, but I'm gonna have to go blue.
Yeah.
I
Grape had
remember
that
we used to
weird
drink
spiky
all of
taste to it.
yeah, we used to
Yes.
drink all of the one that used to be left was the orange one.
Yep. Everybody left the orange joint alone. The orange joint was
Because
nasty as fuck.
it tasted
It was
like
it was like bootleg Sunny D.
yes, exactly. That's how they're
Good
accurate.
to know we on the same page on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Impact 10. 10. Just to piggyback over what James said, I mean that is the multiplayer console. Like that kicked all the shit off. You know, I mean, hell, Mario Kart. Like you look at like that meme going around now where it's like the 4 dudes, they like grown ass men, and they all playing together in the same house. Like
Mhm.
that was niggas' childhoods, like for real. Like who had the 64? We going to their crib. That's where you sleeping over for the night, and that's what we doing. We with Mario Party, Mario Kart, GoldenEye. Like yo, stop looking at my fucking screen. No odd job. Like niggas had rules.
No.
Like it was real, and you know, like you said, it kicked off the entire multiplayer thing. Like that, everything that we have multiplayer wise stems from that. Um, and then when you look at like going back to the controller, the Z targeting thing, um, the C buttons, even then, again, a precursor to the second analog stick, that actual analog stick.
Right.
You know, it's just there's so much about that console that affected a lot of what we do now. I mean, 3D gaming does not exist in the way that it does without Mario 64 and Zelda and even Banjo-Kazooie, because I think we can look at Banjo-Kazooie as a Super Mario 64 clone, but that turned out to be an entirely different beast on its own. When you
100%.
talk about like collectathon games, that's kind of where that started. Like I got a serious issue with collectathon shit just on the back of puzzle pieces. Like I see puzzle pieces, I still hear the sound. To
Yeah.
this day, I still hear the sound. I grunties, the mumbo jumbo, like all of that shit. I hear it even now.
Mhm.
Just talking about it. Um, there's so much. I mean, we're at a point now where you look at like fighting games. Like, yeah, you got Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Those are like the gods. Super Smash Brothers opened shit up. Like
Changed it for
it
me.
really opened shit up because it was the first game where it didn't feel like you had to be a sweaty motherfucker to play, but you could still get your skill down.
Yep.
And when motherfuckers got into it like that, a lot of people's first fighting game was Super Smash Brothers, and then they went into Street Fighter because they felt more confident about their ability to handle quick twitch shit. Like it really did open a lot of shit up, man. This console is elite in every possible way.
100%, man. I was just waiting for it to get back to me so that I could make sure we brought up Smash and Mario Kart. But like, yeah, Smash was it ended up being the most impactful thing. Like, I think I'll talk more about it once we get to GameCube. You know, no
Ooh, fuck.
spoilers. But
Man,
yeah,
I can't wait for the GameCube episode.
we're
We
gonna
gonna really
we're
get
gonna
into
have
that.
us a yeah, we'll have us a combo for sure. But nah, that's N64 was really unique and really, really important to like everybody's childhood. Like this was a console that like really branched it off. It put Nintendo on this path of we like to have fun in our games. Because don't get like I think we made it clear on our Super Nintendo episode. The Super Nintendo was a juggernaut. Like this was powerful at the time. This was selling a lot. It was having the mature games and shit. N64 gave them a lot of personality and character, you know, and it kind of got people talking and opening up. Oh yeah. I also want to mention Kirby 64. Kirby 64 is
Crystal
hella
Shards.
underrated. Yeah, Crystal Shards is hella underrated. You could combine your powers and shit. Awesome game. So anyway, final tallying up of scores. I've already done mine, so I will just kind of recap all of my scores real quick. Console got a 7 for me. Controller also got a 7. Games got a 9. Graphics got an 8, and then Impact was a 10 for a total of 41 out of 50. Please don't check my math. It is 100% correct. Don't tell me nothing.
I got console appearance as a 6, controllers a 7, games and impact 10, graphics 8, and I am also at a 41.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, we are definitely gonna have to run back and like tally these up. Next episode, next time we do a console retrospective, I'm gonna do a tally. But yeah, James, what you got?
Yeah, I got 44.
Nice, okay. So you actually had the highest one, I think. So okay. Yeah, I wanna see.
I mean, 64, like I said, also, I have to just mention one thing, one Pokemon Stadium was
Yes.
I
Man,
spent so much time, but nobody understands when you had the back cartridge to your controller and you can actually take your Game Boy
Right.
game and put it in there and actually use your Pokemon that you were playing.
so
Boy,
that was
Crazy.
the thing that I think for me always hurt it because I didn't want to play Pokemon Stadium 1 or 2 with generic in the game Pokemon. Like, nah, if I couldn't get my shit in there, I wasn't trying to play. Like the whole hook of it was to bring your shit into 3D. Like even if it
Right.
was like a regular Charizard just in the base game didn't hit the same as my level 99. It just
Right.
didn't.
I feel that. I feel that. Nah, Pokemon say. And then before we get off that, the mini games were
man, I used to
absolutely
play
incredible.
Elite.
all day.
Man, I went back and played them again with my cousin on the Switch, and I'm like, these are still fun. I'm like getting invested in this shit.
Bruh.
Yo, listen, that little Eevee mini game where you gotta like jump in the middle, it's bullshit.
Oh
It's
yeah.
bullshit. I have complaints, and said, "Oh, we're gonna talk about this one day." But yeah, nah, I can't wait to. Oh, but there was one other game I wanted to bring up. See, this is how the N64 does. Like, I got to bring up the Tigger game on N64 that I don't know if anybody
Oh,
else
what?
played. The Tigger game, like I think it was for the
Tigger like
Tigger
Winnie the
movie.
Pooh?
Yes, yes. Tigger
Yeah,
had
you
a
know I
fun
did.
little platformer, but like there's like that's what I mean. Like it had just random ass games that we could just keep going back and back and back. You know what I mean?
I had
Um,
no idea there was a Tigger game.
yes, there was. I could not tell you if it was good, but I have fond ass memories of it. So
That's all
shout
that
Also,
out to
matters.
the
Majora's Mask is the first game that stressed me out in my life because it was the first game when it told you the world is gonna end in 20 hours. This shit actually happened that way.
Bruh.
And I was like, oh fuck, I actually have to really play this game and like really start
bro.
playing. Like,
Listen,
what the fuck?
Majora's Mask it's still arguably like the most important Zelda game in my life because it's the one that made me a Zelda fan like I am. Ocarina of Time was very important and it like opened my mind up to video games. But then I got Majora's Mask on that Christmas I was talking about, and it showed me what I like out of side quests and characters in games. People had their own schedules. My man at that one dude will be in the mayor's office trying to make a complaint on the first day every day. But if you want to go talk to him at night, he in the bar getting drunk every day. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you had to go on his schedule because he's living his life. Then I still look for that shit in games. That's why I play random shit now that like a Persona or like something like these life sims or whatever, the Stardew Valleys of the world, because that game made me love that shit. So shout out to Majora's Mask. I can't believe I didn't almost left that off.
Fuck coffee and Anju though.
No, I love that quest. That shit was
Man,
amazing.
look,
But
got
I
me
get it.
got me running shit through conveyor belts and shit, getting all stressed the fuck out. And if you don't get
Yeah.
that shit timed right, all of your progress means absolutely nothing. You are done.
Good luck doing
If,
this shit for 3 more days.
bruh,
Crazy. Crazy time. But
you ain't supposed to give kids timelines like that, like deadlines and shit. That was what homework was
listen,
for.
honestly, one of the craziest fucking side quests I've ever seen in the game still. Like I'm like, yo, y'all really went in. This is a full game side quest, and I love it. But I get it. I definitely get it. Um, but yeah,
Stress
man,
niggas out for no reason.
that's another console retrospective in the books, man. We are definitely gonna have to put all these together. I think we have enough on the list now. Like the next time we do it, it'll be 5. That I think we'll
Yep.
be able to put a tier list together and like just see where shit falls because it's getting interesting on my side. I don't know
Well,
about
we
yours.
Dreamcast next.
Mm. Okay. Okay. I can't wait to see what console I accidentally say the Dreamcast is better than just by giving it a higher number.
Hey,
It's gonna be very interesting.
yeah, that's gonna be an interesting conversation for multiple
Yes,
reasons.
absolutely. But speaking of retro consoles, like we've been doing the whole episode, we did want to touch on one other topic. I know, Tony, just right before we end this up, and I want to touch on it with like a feather. Like I ain't about to get too crazy talking about this shit. So before we start, I just want to say that emulators are now legal on the iPhone. And that is what we're going to be talking about. And anything I was playing on that bitch is a game that I've owned. And games that you own, you are able to dump onto computers and like play on emulators. That's legal. So I'm just getting that out the way to preface. Everything I played, allegedly, I acquired it. As far as it, but everything I played, I owned and I purchased with money. So, you know. But anyway, I've been playing a lot of shit on Delta on my iPhone, and that shit is amazing. I never thought we'd get here. Like, it's just crazy.
All right, so I'm gonna piggyback off of what Kendall just said. So I have complicated thoughts on the ROM conversation because nobody's making any more money off of anything past the PS2 era. I'll give you 360 and PS3. Okay, they can have that one. Fine. Let's say they're making money from that point forward.
But
Nobody's making any money off anything for PS2 back. Like, why are we doing? Just make the ROMs from that. Like, let's cut a hard line. ROMs from PS2 era back should be legal because nobody's making any money off of that on the other end of that. Anytime you buy that shit, you're buying it secondary market. Only person that's making any money is the motherfucker that sold it to you.
that's facts.
So like this is the issue we have with game preservation, where like they're trying so hard to cut that shit off. If you just opened it up to that extent, we're good. If we get another console cycle in, then you kick up the PS3 and 360 and go back. But there's a way around this shit where we got to stop being so fucking tight-assed about it. That being said, yeah, I've been playing this shit. It's fucking awesome. Like,
It's
and the haptic feedback on it helps to an extent. But Matt, look, if you can afford it, invest in a backbone or some type of physical controller for it. It's more than worth it. I mean, the games run really well. There's some like slight graphical hiccups, maybe a little bit of input lag. I've heard, especially on Bluetooth controllers. But for like when I play on a backbone, shit's perfect. You're not gonna you're gonna have to get a backbone if you're playing N64 shit. You're not gonna be able to rock the virtual buttons on that. But man, I've gone back and found so much shit that like either doesn't work that I have, or shit that I had in the past, and I'm like trying to dig through it. Like I still got this, and I'm like, I don't know if I got it. I don't like it. It's sitting in my parents' attic somewhere. I just don't feel like going to get it. But like so much shit that I remember really being into as a kid. Because a lot of people's argument, well, like backwards compatibility is, man, you're not playing none of the old games. Fuck out of here. I am. I
Yeah,
am
same.
regularly playing a lot of old shit. I play Game Boy Color shit now again because I have my game. I have a Game Boy Color. I went and bought another one last year. I have
Man, I
games on
respect
it, but like to be able to not have to worry about like AA batteries,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you
It's
know,
just a convenience factor. Like
yeah, man. Like I used to
the
walk around with 8 AA batteries in my pocket when I was like traveling and shit for my sister's games. Like I don't have to
yeah,
do shit like that no more.
yeah. It's a new day, and I love that. Yeah, no, I want to make sure that I'm clear for YouTube. Where we get these games and all that shit. But we definitely need to have a deeper conversation, which we've had before on this channel about game preservation and getting access to old games. Because most of what I want to play on these consoles is like old Pokemon games. I've been waiting for Nintendo to bring them to Switch for fucking the longest, and you know where we at. Who knows when that's going to happen,
It's a
if it's going to
slow
happen.
roll.
Yeah, like I think they had them on the Wii U, which is crazy, which means that it exists. You can do that shit. Um, but until you do, I'm just like, yo, I want to play these games. I had these games. I'm about to go play these damn games. Like my
Yeah.
iPhone is a perfect place to have access to them because being able to play something like Pokemon, like Heart Gold on my commute app on my phone is crazy. Like that's pretty much all I'm doing. That shit is pretty fire. So. Yeah, I can appreciate this. I think this is an interesting conversation around access to games and like what we can and can't do and how Nintendo's gonna respond to this. Because I have no idea how they can stop this. I just know that they want to.
They're
Like,
they're gonna try.
Of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If
So
anybody is going to try to stop it, it's going to be Nintendo.
They just
they
went
they
after Gary's mods. They got him to shut down.
yep. I realized when that happened that it feels to me like if you are giving a Pokemon experience that could rival their Pokemon experience, they're going to take you out of here. Like Power was good until the Pokemon reskin came, and it was like, oh, now I can play with your characters, but in a different way,
Yep.
and with guns, I guess. And they're like, nah, no, you cannot.
We're out of here on that.
Yep. So I think that's the line that they draw, even though they get real petty, but it's just certain shit like that is very weird. Now, I do want to before we get out of here, I know we get into the toward the end, but we didn't get a chance to talk about. Have y'all heard about Nintendo's policy on Fortnite and why Samus didn't make it in there?
Yes, greedy motherfuckers.
So, so Nintendo wasn't trying to have Samus show up on any other console besides the Nintendo consoles. Like that skin
Is
would have
there
only,
is there nothing more hypocritical than that? Like, what the fuck is Smash Brothers Ultimate?
yeah, yeah. That's what kills me.
What the fuck are we
Like,
doing?
just playing. Everybody played nice with Nintendo, and they were not trying to play nice.
Yeah,
And
Solid Snake and Sora on on a fucking Switch.
and the thing is, like, you can limit these things. Like, you can't go get Kratos now. I don't think because that was a limited time thing, and they would need to partner with Sony to bring it back. But Kratos does exist in the game. You know what I mean? Um, or similarly, like if you play Master Chief in Fortnite, apparently you get like a black skin if you play on Xbox, and Kratos has like an exclusive skin too that you only get on PlayStation. So there's ways to boost yourself up if you really want to do that. But I think they just didn't want to give other consoles a chance to play with these characters with their toys, basically. And that shit
Yeah.
is so
They're acting
Nintendo.
like putting Samus on there means, hey, now you have Metroid.
Yeah, no.
Nah, dog, it's basically just a character skin. Like that's it. It'd be all right.
Like, if anything is going to boost Metroid's visibility and sales. So
And that's the other fucking problem I have. Like you could have put
yeah,
Samus on. I can't imagine how many people who play in PlayStation who don't really know who she is, but might see
right.
that suit and go, "That looks fucking incredible. What game is this?"
Right, a bunch of kids or people that just never touched the console or whatever.
This sounds like some WWE shit to where Vince is like,
Just
I'm
about
not
to
gonna
say.
let my wrestlers wrestle another company because if they lose, then my people look weak. So it's like Nintendo, like, if Goku goes out and kills Samus, then did that mean that Samus sucks? and she can't kill Goku or Naruto or whatever other skin that they got out there. And they're just like,
Man.
nobody's shooting Samus.
Right.
And they're just like trying to keep her. And it's just like, bro, like
It makes no sense.
it's not Metroid. Nobody's taking the skin and like, hey, we're gonna make a Metroid type looking game, or it's just skins, like, and it's just fun.
Facts.
And that's
Now,
it.
mind you, they are making games inside of Fortnite now, so they
I
could
mean,
go.
I mean, people do stuff. I look.
Yeah,
I'm
but this
not gonna say like they don't.
this
But,
happened after all that though, so like they didn't know that at the time. So it is what it is. Like,
but Nintendo's greedy with their characters.
yeah,
They're really greedy.
it gets
I'm still surprised that Link was in a Soul Calibur game.
That
man.
absolutely throws me off because
It-
Link is getting slashed with swords and shit and
Man.
humped by Voldo.
But
That was
what I
perfectly
will say
acceptable.
though, that motherfucker was one of the best characters in
Yes, he
Soul
was.
Calibur.
Dog. Link was my
He was a
fucking main.
beast.
That motherfucker
Yep.
was nasty.
That shit got me into the series 100%.
Yeah.
100%. So
I guess that was the contract. All right, Link can get slashed up, but he better fuck everybody else up too.
that's what you call
The
the
baddest motherfucker there.
that's what you call the Dwayne Johnson contract. You
Yup.
had one of those.
That's very true.
Something like that. And with that, I think that is a perfect place to go ahead and wrap this one up, man. Guys, let us know what y'all think of the N64, which y'all been playing on Delta and whatnot, and what y'all think of, like, you know, having access to old games, because I think that's a conversation that we all kind of really need to be having right now. So definitely leave a comment below. We want to hear from you guys on YouTube. Definitely like and subscribe underneath the video, because we need that feedback. We want to make sure we're making this channel for you, man. And make sure you rate this podcast too. Them 5 stars help a lot. So, but until next time, man, I'm Kendall. This has been Tony and James. And make sure you keep gaming. Take care.